Let's talk pre-warm-up. I know it sounds a little strange, but basically a pre-warm-up, and especially for Pilates, is a way of getting all of your class participants to understand where their body is in space and align themselves correctly before they actually start the Pilates warm-up. So we're calling this a pre-warm-up. So as I've mentioned in other videos, you have your alignment. Your shoulder blades are going to go back and down, right? And the rib cage is going to contract in ever so slightly. A couple of things, and I'm going to start standing and then I'll take this to the floor. So a few things to keep in mind. We have a muscle in between the shoulder blades called your rhomboids. And so your rhomboids is one of those muscles in the Adidas Book of Anatomy that stretches. The other muscle is the abdominals, but we'll get to that in a minute. So when it comes to the rhomboids, it's located in between your shoulder blades, and when you allow your shoulders to roll forward, guess what? That muscle just stretches, and then it becomes natural for the shoulders to roll forward. So in order to train those muscles, there's something called retraction, and we can do that from a standing position. We can add resistance by adding tubing, or we can actually hinge from our hips and add weight, or we could go down into a push-up, a tricep push-up position and do the exact same thing. So let me review what a retraction or retractive movement is. So here I am, I'm moving my ponytail. You're gonna see my back. Small bend in the knees. Watch my shoulders. They squeeze together and back, and then they release. And they squeeze together and they release. Now notice, I am not pulling my elbows back. I'm not opening my arms. My arms are there for the ride, and literally it's only this shoulder. Watch the shoulder. Shoulder moves forward, shoulder moves back. That's it. Forward and back, right there. That is retraction. Now, again, like I said, I could be holding tubing and I can retract if I want to add resistance. I can hinge from the hips and I can retract, and I can use dumbbells from this position, or I can bring myself into a tricep push-up position, again, pulling in from the rib cage and the abdominals, and I can retract. It is a tiny movement. Most people start to bend their elbows because they think the movement should be bigger, but it really is not a big movement. It's a small movement, but yet a very powerful one. So in part of your warm-up or pre-warm-up, arms go out, squeeze the shoulders back in together and release. And squeeze back in together and release. And as a visual, I typically will tell clients, well, you're squeezing a $100 bill between your shoulder blades and then you're letting it go. Or you're squeezing a pen between your shoulder blades and letting it go. So once again, I'll do it from the back so you can see, squeezing your shoulder blades back in together and release. And squeeze back in together and release. Now these movements of a pre-warm-up, you can put them in any order you want. This is literally only for postural awareness so that your clients can kick in. Many times I start with both feet, hip distance apart. Let's feel where our weight is. Ground your toes into the floor. The average person, and it has to do with wearing shoes, lifts their toes up in the air like this, and they don't realize that now they're off balance. So it is about really touching base and utilizing the muscles of your toes to touch base with the floor, no matter what you do with the rest of your body. So we talked about our shoulder blades. Now let's talk about our ribs and our breathing, okay? So I mentioned to you that if our shoulders are back and down, right, chest comes up, rib cage opens. So this little crest of the ribs here, we need to squeeze that in so that the ribs become one with the abdominals. Now, I also mentioned that the abdominals is one of those muscles that stretches. So very true. We sit there and we just hold our stomach out. Guess what? It just stretches. So now, depending on what kind of abdominal habits we've had, maybe this is going to be an easy thing to do, or maybe this is going to be a hard thing to do. And you, as the instructor, needs to be able to make that judgment call. So pulling in from the ribs, for some people, it could be super easy. They're pulling in from the ribs. It feels almost normal to them. They have no problems. Others are going to say, I can't breathe. This is too hard. Right? So I need you to figure out, as the instructor, where do you position someone? You might not be able to position them perfectly the first time, but progressively with time, you'll get them to bring their rib cage in more and more and more until it becomes habit. The more the rib cage is in, the better your spine is supported in your natural arch. Now, with the ribs in, take your hands. First, try to go under your ribs. Okay, now squeeze the ribs in so you can't go under your ribs. And now holding this in, feel your hands where they're at. I want you to breathe. So some people breathe by opening and closing their ribs. We don't necessarily need to do that. We need to do it by pushing up and down through the diaphragm. So the ribs can stay connected with the abdominals and you can breathe. It is about disassociating those movements. Are you with me? Okay, good. Let's come down to the floor. So now, lying back on the ground, placing yourself in the same position, you can start with your hands up and tell people to squeeze their shoulder blades and release and squeeze. Once you get them to squeeze, you may have to lift up a little bit so the shoulder blades really stay underneath in the mat. So here's my shoulder blades. They're in. Chest is up. Now I'm going to squeeze in from my rib cage, and I'm going to place my hands at the upper edge of my pelvis down to my pubic bone. Make sure it's parallel to the floor. Squeeze my rib cage again, and I think this time let's keep our hands here at the ribs so we know what's going on. From here, focus on just the left leg. Knee comes up, knee comes down. The key here is the pelvis does not move, so the only area that's moving is from the hip joint. So the leg comes up, the leg comes down. Let's do the other side, same thing. Up and down without moving the pelvis, without opening up the ribs, breathing as you move. And down. Now, extend the left leg up. So same thing, your pubic bone should feel like you're pushing it into the floor. Your rib cage is in, lower the leg, and lift without the pelvis moving, without the ribs moving. So you could actually have your participants hold their pelvis, hold their ribs so they can feel what's going on, lower the leg, and let's do the same thing with the other. Leg goes up, leg goes down, leg goes up, but pelvis does not move. And these are integral parts of all the exercises that we're going to end up doing. Lift up and down and set the foot in.